All right, good afternoon, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to another episode of Crypto with English. Now, I know in the name, Crypto with English, we do focus primarily on blockchain, cryptocurrency, and Web3, but today we're going to take a little detour. Most of what we all do is very much interconnected. So today, I'd like to warmly, I'd like to warmly welcome a very, very special guest. Her name is Barbara Vercruysse. She is the global kindness advocate. If you are on LinkedIn, I am more than certain you have seen her name and content circulate about. She has more than 26,000 followers, and she has a very highly accomplished career across corporate, especially BMW, to name one of few. So, Barbara, I'd like to warmly welcome you to today's episode. As we're going to be talking about things like kindness, compassion, and how these things play out in our ecosystem as people, in our ecosystem as coworkers, and as business partners, as entrepreneurs, and it's just as people. So again, thank you very much.
Well, it's a joy and a pleasure to be here with you today, Adam. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you again. And could you describe and provide some context to your role as a
Yes.
global kindness advocate?
Well, since I was born, you could say I was told that I was too kind for this world. Everybody kept saying to me, "Well, Barbara, you will never achieve anything in life. You're too kind. You have to toughen up. You have to get tougher if you want to be successful." And I couldn't understand that. Really, as a child, I was thinking, what do they say? What do they mean? I have to be less kind? What of
I see.
kind of planet did I arrive in? Like, like the
Right.
the wonder of a little child saying, whoa, what is this? Where am I? Where did I land? Like with my UFO, I landed on a planet where we
Sure.
have to be less kind to survive. And that was something that I kept in the back of my head. You could say my while growing up. But then I think, like many of us, we get like kind of conditioned by our parents, by our environment. So just went to high school, um, went to college, met my husband, married, started a construction business. But then at the age of 32, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 skin cancer. So as a young mom, in the meantime, we had 3 children, and the youngest was 8 weeks old. I was told I had 6 more months to live. And as you can imagine, when you're 32 and you're suddenly faced with death,
Yeah.
it makes you really, it's a shock. And when I look back at it now, like Thursday is a special day. It's exactly 19 years ago that I got my diagnosis. So in 2 days. Um, I being faced with that, you're 32. Until then, you could say my life was based on unconscious choices. My life was uh, like mainly living up to expectations from
Right.
others. So I thought I was having the key to happiness in my hands with the college, the title, like the business,
Right. You
married.
did all the right
So
steps, so to
yes,
say.
I took all the right
Yes.
steps. And it's not that I was unhappy. I was not unhappy, but it was like more a superficial happiness.
Yes.
It was not really based on conscious choices. And um, when when I was faced, like I told myself, like, if I die right now, I'm 32. If I die right now, will I be happy with my legacy that I left at 32? And the answer was no, no, because I had not lived the life that Barbara wanted. I
Right.
had lived a life until then that I thought that other people wanted me to live to be a good person, which is something entirely different. So I promised to myself, if I survive, that was, that huge promise to myself. I will take my second life in both hands and build every single day to build a positive legacy, which I have done since then. But that was a slow process.
Right.
So I was running a construction business. It's not that I was unhappy. I was happily married, young mom, like, but was I doing what you could say my soul really yearned for? I was not. Since childhood, I was the one, and even in adulthood, I was the person that people would call to when they were in trouble, when they weren't feeling good. Even with my construction business,
You were
I
everybody's
was
rock, so to
natural.
say.
I was, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
everybody
For
knows they
for
can lean on
many,
you
yes,
and count on
yes.
you.
And I would always listen, like listen carefully, even intuitively, and see like where I felt there was a block or what could be changed. So I knew that that was my real passion. Human behavior, but most of all, empowerment.
Right,
Empowerment and making people see that we have a choice in every moment, that we do not have to go through life as a victim of our circumstances. And being so ill was a first, like, enormous lesson. When I was in hospital that first week, um, I had several surgeries and then a year of chemotherapy. Um, I looked at the ceiling and I was like, okay. I started, like crying a little. My three, we had two toddlers and a baby. They were
wow,
with my parents and parents-in-law. And I
right,
was like, oh my God, I miss my babies. I miss my children as a young mom. But almost, like within a minute, I was thinking, okay, Barbara, where the kids are right now, they are surrounded by love and they have no clue what's going on. They were too young. They were
right,
3.5, 2.5, and a baby. So for them, it could be a holiday. They're just with grandma and grandpa. They're
right,
having fun. So I made, like I got that insight. It doesn't help me right now crying over my babies.
right,
That doesn't help me. First of all, they are perfect where they are. They're perfectly surrounded by love and warmth.
right,
So, next moment, what did I think? Okay, Barbara, what is in your power right now to help yourself? For my health, I had to surrender to the surgeons and the doctors. But there was one thing I had power over. It was my mind, my thoughts.
right,
So I told myself to not allow any negative or depressed thought come in, or if it when it came in, I would not entertain that thought.
right,
I would focus on something positive. Because, Adam, even if those were my last 6 months, what would it have served me to, like to go through them crying and depressed?
right,
Even if it were my last 6 months, I wanted to spend them in joy. And that was quite a challenge for the people around me. My parents, who were in their early 50s, like I am now, like they were the time. My husband, first 3 weeks, he up. He saw himself a young widower. I had to say to them, stop, no more tears. I'm still here.
right,
Um, many
right,
people came to visit me in the hospital, like saying goodbyes. And I was like, no, no, I'm not. I'm still here. So, and I think that my having that positive mindset and that it was within my power how I looked, how I responded to that situation. Instead of going into
right,
drama, instead of going into victimhood, I said, okay, stayed calm, composed, and told myself, if I focus on the positive things, my kids, loving parents, people in me, if I focus
right.
on my blessings, I myself
Yeah,
to, in depressed thoughts, you weaken your health too. And I was very
right.
aware of that.
Oh yeah,
So, like I survived it and the journey of kind of self discovery. I went to coaching certification courses, read books on spirituality, and I was still running my construction business. And I was kind of fearful to let go of that business because it made good money. It was something that I was used to.
Right.
Plus, I, like shift, like making that big change is quite, you are very exposed because many people would say, "Oh my God, Barbara, you are leaving." Like, why would you do that? Are you crazy? Have you become crazy? So in 2016, 6 years ago, two of my employees in the construction business betrayed me, and I
Oh,
ended up almost bankrupt. I ended up with 200,000 euros of debt. And for me, it was the universe telling me, well, Barbara, if you want, if you want to end that construction business, we will make it happen. Of course, it was very painful. It was very painful. For
absolutely.
me personally, it was more painful than the cancer because I felt like a personal failure in having to end that business, having to end with so much debt. I
Right.
didn't go into bankruptcy. We had a settlement with the Court of Commerce, and I had to reinvent myself.
Yeah.
That's when I had all my coaching certifications that I got an opportunity to work with BMW. And I
Of
said
course.
yes. I said fully
Right.
yes. Even in the beginning, it was not entirely the work that I wanted to do,
Right.
but I needed the money. I had to swallow my pride and I
Right.
had to do stuff that you could say was below my level. But it was also a very important lesson in life.
Yeah.
Like opportunities do not always come in the form that we
Right.
want or expect. Just
Well
take
said.
it,
Yes.
take it, say yes. And like when you have that innate quality, you have value, it boils up. So after a few months, they would say, well, we want you like more business coaching, quality management. Within 6 months, I was in the management, in the board of several dealerships of BMW. So that was just, like I couldn't have thought that a year before. That was great. Um, and it, I worked so hard that I didn't have the time to get depressed. I simply didn't have,
Right.
you know, my husband, he is working as a lawyer for the city of Ghent, and he had his income. But with such huge debt, I really had to work really, really, really hard. So I can
Sure.
say right now, after 6 years, like even last year, everything was, like is all clean now.
Wow.
I'm
Awesome.
running a thriving business. And you have to know, 6 years ago, I was 46. So many people told me when they heard of the trouble, oh my God, Barbara, you're 46, your life is over. You will
I was
never
just gonna
find
say
any.
probably so many people were just saying that your
Yes,
life is over
yes.
and
Like, oh my God, you're never going to find anything anymore. And I was like, what? I'm
yeah.
just halfway. Like I'm
Right.
halfway. I can still do. And I strongly believe if you have that right attitude and you are willing to learn, you are willing to adapt, you are willing, like you have that willingness,
Right.
there's plenty of opportunity. Just don't be fixed on how you want the opportunity to enter your life. And I
Absolutely.
have to say, in the way, in that journey, I've grown so much, I've learned so much. I'm grateful for those challenges right now because it gave me a strength, a maturity that I couldn't have had if I never had any challenge. Sometimes,
Right.
I tell people if I would never have had any challenge, maybe I would have become an arrogant bitch without empathy, without compassion, because you don't know what it is to have like financial trouble,
Sure.
health troubles. If you don't know, so I've lived all of it, I've experienced it, and it grew my compassion. And maybe you ask now, why kindness? Why kindness? Well, in that entire journey, and especially in my journey with BMW, I stayed very, very true to myself, even in a male dominated environment, in a corporate environment. Um, I never let that environment like mold me into a
Right.
version of myself that I wouldn't like. And it was a learning process in the beginning, like in the boardroom, you have all those, like boasting alpha
Sure.
males.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're fighting and they're boasting. And I had to find a way to have my voice be heard. But if you have like that excellence in your work, you have your expertise. And now I just simply, like I'm like, hold it and listen to me now. And they, like they they get quiet. And I have gained so much respect for who I am. Where 6 years ago they would chuckle and call me Miss Sunshine. I'm still Miss Sunshine, but now they're like, look at her. She just stayed true to herself, and
Right.
still she. And in this way, I could influence the entire like working culture in those dealerships. And now I'm like, like where when each room that I enter, people are just happy to see me.
That's great. And by
It
the
is.
way, and I have to say, there'd probably be a lot of men out there who would have cracked under those circumstances as well that you had endured, such as,
Mhm.
going through, you'd say a stage 4 skin cancer, and
Yes.
the essentially having your two business partners essentially betray you,
Hmm.
leaving you in like $200,000 of debt.
Hmm.
It's, I feel like with some people, in fact, many people, I think people, in many ways, they're either like eggs or like swords. So a little bit of pressure with
Hmm.
an egg, it cracks. Like,
Yes.
do grocery shopping, you come home, half of them
Yeah.
are wrecked. On the other hand, swords, or so to say, a blacksmith has to keep hammering it. And by
Hmm.
I guess you could say, the more times they hammer it, the more, I guess
Hmm.
you could say, the steel becomes purer. All
Yes.
the impurities are essentially removed, and
Yes.
it becomes
Yes.
very, very high quality, as
Yes.
each, I guess you could say, hammer strike comes down. And I do think that, circumstances like this, often it is a choice on your part as far as how you're going to kind of process
I
and navigate it.
yes. I come
Especially like you
from
said.
a background with a background in family with addictive behavior with alcoholics. So I could have become an alcoholic and like
Sure.
blame everybody and
Right.
everything.
Right.
But just having seen that in my childhood,
Right.
that was so important for me to see that in my childhood, how an first of all, a person who is addicted is a very sensitive person. That I have learned very early. They have a huge difficulty to cope with this
Right.
toughness in the world. So it's not like I'm speaking some judgment out here, but I could see how they used circumstances to
Right.
use, like there was a good day, they would drink. There was a bad day, they would drink.
Right.
Kids were, like kids were nasty, they would drink. Uh, so it was
Right.
always using. Um, and I was like, oh my God, I could see that mechanism like from childhood on. So if you can use your circumstances to pull yourself down, you can use them also to, like empower
Mhm.
yourself. And I think the the biggest lesson until now, you could say, is that I know if tomorrow everything is taken away, let's say that my house, my business, the cars, I can start all over again. I
Yeah.
know I have that value within me. It's not, you know, I am not dependent on my job title, on my bank account. It's with the self worth and the value is here. So it's only gone when I am gone. But as long as I am here, I can give value. And I can, like it's such a powerful feeling to overcome all of that.
It is. And especially if you overcome it with such a good attitude and the grace, so to say, that you were able to, it's transformative, I have to say. And it is interesting that you mentioned before that a lot of your friends
Hmm.
would like often go to you and say, hey, listen, Barbara, your life is over. And
Yes.
it's funny because I think I've also learned not to listen to those people, even if they're your friends, but also
Hmm.
that's more of a reflection on them, not you, because they're really just
Absolutely.
thinking about themselves if they were in your shoes, so to say.
It's a reflection. of their belief system.
Right.
You could say the paradigm where they operate in.
Right. Exactly.
That's it. And it's no use to get hurt because it's
Right.
not personally. They just reflect their belief system. It has
Right.
nothing to do with you. In
Right.
the beginning, like a long time ago, I would get even my best friends in beginning. I would make Facebook lives. I have been doing Facebook lives for a long time. I built up quite an audience on Facebook too. And, some of my best female friends, they told me, "Oh my God, Barbara, is that your way to get male attention?" And I
What?
was like, "What? Yes, what?" I was trying to bring, like
Wow.
bring my passion into the world.
Right.
And there was like, I, at that time, I could get hurt. But
Right.
now I'm like, no, that's okay. That's how and it mostly was a reflection of their fears.
Right.
And they were, like me having that courage to expose myself, because in the beginning, like you have
Oh
a
yeah.
construction business, 2 months later you're making videos about changing your life. People were like, "Oh my God, she's nuts." That cancer must have made her nuts.
No, but
It's
you're
like,
also doing something they'd be totally scared of. So the fact of
yes,
the matter is
yes,
that I think whichever friend or friends were saying this to you, I highly doubt any of them either reflected or took the chance you did to go out and do
they
this.
did not. They did
Right.
not. And unfortunately, they're not in my life anymore. I I'm, sometimes I feel
Seems like
sorry,
it's for
but
the better.
yeah, if you
Yeah.
step up in life,
Right.
or your friends step up with you, or they stay behind. And
That's the way of
that's
putting it.
sometimes a lonely journey, that growing and
Yeah.
that changing. It can be lonely because many people are so fixed in their situation they're in,
Yes.
and you are like so out of touch with everything they know. I'll be in a month, I'll be 52. And people are like, a woman of 52 who has this, so who, like, who knows so much about social media, who is she, why does she do that? Well, I'm just passionate about bringing like a mind shift, you could say, in humanity. And I know it sounds like very ambitious, but that mind shift, that without more kindness and compassion, we are doomed. We are exhausting
Absolutely.
ourselves, we are exhausting our planet, and we are all tired and exhausted. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're in there's no balance. We have applauded a kind of leadership which is not in balance, like very the
Well said.
male energy, which is good, like male. And I think we both have the poles. The male energy is the action energy, which is good. The female energy is the softer, more receiving, but there has to be a balance
Right.
in both. A man has to have the male and female energy, as a woman has to have. And okay, maybe male energy is more present in you than female, but you even have men who have more female energy than male. So, like the whole gender, um, for me is like, let's go beyond that. Like,
Sure.
let's not look at our differences. It's
Right.
just, like you have people who have more one side and others, and it's okay. Just let's accept each other and look how to be more connected instead of focusing on what
Yeah.
can disconnect us.
Wow. And you know what? And to add to that as well, I think maybe one of the issues is that a lot of the goals and objectives, now whether this is in politics, whether this is in finance, it tends to be very linear and
Yes,
a lot
yes,
more times,
yes,
more often than not,
absolutely.
short-sighted. So it always ends up being something that's directly in front of you that everybody can see, so to say. So it seems like that's why, whether this is in the United States, whether this is in
Hmm.
Europe, a lot of things seem to fall flat on its face, or
Yes,
they kind of I think a lot of the objectives just don't end up really manifesting the way that people and
no,
others would
no, no.
would expect.
I
There's
can
no
say
sense of abstract or long term
no.
type of thinking to it.
Yes, many people would say, like, even in the beginning when I made the videos and I was present on social media,
Yeah.
Do you make money with that? Like we're so brainwashed that
Right.
everything we do has to bring in money.
Yeah.
And in the long term, I'm building something very beautiful. My
Right.
coaching business is really thriving. I have my business pillar, I have my
Right.
personal coaching side pillar, I have my online courses, I have physical products. I have the vision, I have the long term vision.
Right.
Absolutely. But the long term vision is not in like every video has to make money. And
Right.
first of all, money is a magnifier. We know that.
Right.
If you still immature inside you, if you still are, you could say, like you said, impure inside, that money will not end your suffering.
Right.
It's not the money that ends the suffering. Of course, money can, like you can do things with money, but it's no guarantee to end suffering. If
Right.
you have like addictive behavior, your money
Right.
will always only make that you have more addictive
Might
behavior.
amplify it.
You
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
magnify. So what people have so difficulty to understand is outer growth is always preceded by inner growth, and it's painful and it needs
Sure.
courage. Like you have to fight your inner demons first. If you have old wounds, those have to heal first.
Right.
And it's through challenges, and it's through facing, be brutally honest with yourself. If you're an imposter or procrastinating very easily, you really have to tackle that. For me, I was too sensitive long time in taking things too personally, or I would too easily people please, and I had to change that like completely. It was hard for me. It was hard for me to no longer people please.
Sure.
But now I know that people pleasing is a lack of self-respect. If you always put somebody else before you, it's a lack. And you could say, well, how do you integrate that with compassion and kindness? I can only be honestly and fully compassionate if I have that compassion for myself first.
Wow. Very well said. Beautifully said, I have
And
to
then
say.
it's honest. Then it's not out of niceness or out of people pleasing or out of some kind of duty feeling. It's
Right.
honest because my vessel or my heart is full. So I love to share.
Right.
But if I share to get some love back from you, if I do something like just to get paid from you,
Right.
if I want a business out of despair, people have a sixth sense for that. You will
Right.
not close your deal. You close your deal when you're, like you have that self confidence, that
Sure.
self worth, and you're serving
Right.
and you're just helping people. And of course, if you feel like they're like some kind of, how do you say that? A leech, like
Right.
more blood
Like a
sucker.
leech. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
the
you
big
set your
insect. Yeah.
boundaries. You have helped someone, well, and they keep like asking, you set
Right.
your boundaries. And I
Absolutely.
have learned that. But there's a difference between boundary setting and just despairing, and you move on. Okay,
Right.
that didn't work out. And knowing that an entrepreneur, there's as many failures as there are successes. And that's
Sure.
just part of it. And it's enjoying that learning process, like saying to yourself, okay, we know that this doesn't work. No
Right.
big deal. No big deal. Any entrepreneur who is like hugely successful right now had all of that. And maybe they were not very public about those failures, but they had them.
Right. Well said. And I like one of the things you mentioned before about people, I guess you could say, having some sort of limited experience. So let's say they do all the right steps, they kind of cloister or pigeonhole themselves in their
Yeah,
career. So, some of those, I guess you could say, very limited or linear type of experiences can make people very arrogant. Let's say, you do the right
yes,
thing and everything
yes,
happened as it would. I think it really distorts
absolutely.
people's sense of success and failure. So I think when they see what you've done, that is a truly scary thing because I think it goes outside their perception of what success and failure is. Like, oh,
Absolutely.
I did everything right, so things should go right for me.
No.
She went through all this and she's doing better. Like I'm trying to think what's probably going through their head right now. So it probably really
Well,
takes a hammer to their value system, so to say.
yes, but maybe a good question to ask is, if I would, like drop dead right now, who would miss me?
Right.
If you're an arrogant, like
Right.
person, nobody would miss you. They would maybe
Right.
even be like
Like
relieved
celebrate it
that,
secretly.
yes. So who would miss me? What legacy am I building?
Yeah.
Who am I in the grocery store? With that person
Yeah.
who has trouble, who is lonely, and you just give a smile. Maybe it's the only smile that person will see that day. And in
Right.
your karma bank account, that counts hugely, that smile.
Yeah.
But we live in a society which do not appreciate those acts enough.
Right.
If you could see it like in pure energy, the moment you give that smile, you're like radiating, like it's
Yes.
light, you're giving light. If you're the one who goes to the grocery store and that lady at the cashier, she made a mistake and, like she returned too much money, and you go like, haha, I made 5 extra bucks. Your light dims. You're like a black
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah.
Even in our society, some people would applaud that. Oh, you're smart. You didn't give it back.
Right. Yeah. You just pocketed that. Right.
Yes. So it's just that in our value system, we have made like we created some kind of system which applaud arrogance, which applaud greed, which applaud the short term, which applaud war, which applaud
Yeah.
like, look at me. That's not power. That's not
Right.
powerful. That's fear.
Yeah.
That's pure fear. It's all fear based.
Yeah. I agree. It's like almost like a resource guarding or like a fear of like some kind of scarcity. So you kind
Yes,
of have to
absolutely.
do these kind of very short term
Mhm.
actions or short term I guess you could say solutions, which I think a lot of times cause a tremendous amount of harm. Whether it's, let's say, pocketing the extra change or some of the things that we're seeing overseas right now with war and conflict.
Yes, absolutely. As long as you think that you have to chase something outside yourself
Yeah.
to be someone, to chase that amount of money, to be worthy or to be successful, then you miss the point entirely. You are worthy, you are successful, and all that you build in a business or as an entrepreneur is an expression of who you are, rather than you chasing something to be someone. It's
Right.
the other way around.
Right.
If I'm driving a very beautiful BMW, but it's not that that car gives me worthiness. It's just an expression of my sense for aesthetics.
Right.
Maybe for you it's something else. And if that car is taken away from me tomorrow, maybe for half an hour, I would be sad. And then I would say, come on, Barbara, like you're in this
Yeah.
situation right now.
Sure.
How can you deal with this in the best way?
Right.
I won't cry over it. Sad maybe for half an hour, but it will not ruin my life. I will never allow that something material would ruin my life or my day.
Wow. Very very well said. And with your journey, going into coaching, creating this brand, and essentially doing things that are really in alignment with yourself, I do think most people go through life with ever actually getting to know who they are. And in fact, I
Mm-hmm.
think most of the time, many people consist of other people's thoughts. So you're talking about
Yes,
expectations
yes,
and kind
yes,
of,
yes.
spending people, spending the
Absolutely.
first half. I've been there too, trust me.
No,
And
me too.
yeah,
Me
and
too.
I
Absolutely.
stopped that, and it ended up being like a second life,
Yes,
as
yes,
you've said as well. I think the difference is that your friends or former friends now, they're still just other
yes.
people's thoughts as time goes on.
Plus,
So
they're still at the exact same place where they
that's what I was
were
gonna say.
like
Yeah,
exact same place. But
and
that's okay,
secretly resenting you because you're happier. That's what
yes,
I'm saying. Like they
but
may have
I
done
do not
better career. Yes.
I do not like I have no judgment about that
Right.
whatsoever. It doesn't come into my thoughts. It's just that living in alignment, and Adam, it's not people who know me in day-to-day life would say, "Oh my God, Barbara, you're exactly the same person in front of the camera
Uh,
as when there's no more camera." And those
right.
are the important moments. When I go into the living room, like in 30 minutes, with
Right.
my kids, it's Easter holiday, so everybody's home.
Right.
So three young adults, they are 23, 21, and 19 in the
Wow.
meantime. My husband is there. It's who am I as a human being?
Yeah.
Who am I as a mom? Who am I? Like I told in the grocery store, who am I in my car when I'm driving? Who am I in all those moments? It's very easy to pull out the story here in front of the camera. Very easy. Many people do that. But living it day by day is hard. It really is. Because
Yeah.
it's training yourself in, like you said, you have to reframe things
Yeah.
and train yourself. When you see, like, whoa, I felt triggered, like triggers are the most important, like teachers.
Yeah.
When you get triggered, it's not about that person,
Yeah.
it's about you. Look within
Yeah.
yourself. What is it within me that needs my loving attention? What is it
Right.
within me? Which wound has been triggered? What is
Right.
reacting right now? It's not
Right.
about the other person, because there comes a day when it no longer triggers you, that same sentence. So let's say I see a friend of mine that I haven't seen in 10 years, and she sees me and she says to me, "Oh my God, Barbara, you have aged a lot. Oh my God." When I would not feel confident in my skin, when I would be very insecure, and when like how I look would be hugely important,
Right.
that would be horror.
Right.
I would be like, "Oh my God." First of all, I would be like, "Why is she saying this?" And she's mean, and
Yeah.
it would ruin my day. And the entire day, oh my God, look at those wrinkles. But since I do not care about what other people say, when you're confident, it simply doesn't trigger you. You just move on, you talk to her, you change the subject,
Right.
and it has no impact or power over you.
Might just be wishful thinking on her part. That might just be how she feels. So, you
Yes,
know,
of course,
yeah.
of course. That's it. But it's always the moment when there is something that triggers you,
Sure. Yeah.
then you can say, "Whoa, that's interesting." That's
Yeah.
what I say to myself right now. "Well, Barbara, that's interesting. That was a
Yeah.
huge trigger. What's going on?"
Yeah. And like I was also thinking before, some of your friends who are looking at, your journey on social media and creating this brand and creating this content,
Hmm.
um, I think there is kind of this reality that they may live in where maybe they're still doing what they're doing, and maybe even if
Yes.
their career has gone okay and they haven't had to
Hmm.
deal with any personal crises, I do feel like it's a type of situation where they're feeling they're still doing work all the time and they did everything right, and you're essentially achieving a level of success where they think, oh, she's just having fun all day. So it seems like for a lot of those people there is some sort of resentment because they didn't take that journey. They didn't really have to, let's say, go and really say, okay,
I
what is
think,
this that really drives me?
yes, I think it has to do with that intensity.
Yeah.
Since I survived cancer, I'm so
Oh yeah.
grateful to
Oh
wake
yeah.
up every morning, that I have like an intensity in my life, that passion, that drive, that like so many people are like, like
You
shoulders
have this
down, blah,
energy for
blah, blah.
life. Yeah, where it's
Yes,
never
I'm
just
like
blah
that.
blah blah
Yes,
any for you
yes,
anymore.
yes,
Like
I have
every
that
meal
zest.
is beautiful, every sunshine
Yes,
is beautiful, every
yes,
experience is
yes,
going to be more beautiful for you
yes,
than, let's say,
yes,
oh, your friends, they did everything right and they're
yeah.
like they're
They're
they're kind
more
of
blasé. They're more
right.
blasé. They,
Absolutely.
like gratitude. Gratitude. I know it's a cliche, but just gratitude to
It
wake up.
helps. It's
It you cannot be negative and grateful at the same time. You cannot. Try it. It will not,
right, yeah.
like it,
Good
it
points.
just waking up, you're like on your soft mattress, you have your cushion, you have like your duvet on your, like
Sure.
how blessed you are. Like billions of people do not wake up like that.
Yeah, that's very true.
They wake up, like on the ground, on a hard thing,
Right.
the midst of filth. They have no running water. They don't even have a bathroom. So we have become so spoiled, and in that spoiled, we have, I think it weakens people a lot. If you
Yeah.
have had all the luxury your entire life, but having been taken away at some points in my life so much,
Yeah.
I appreciate it more. Not only that, but I'm like more detached from it.
Right.
I know life sometimes, like there's good times, there's bad times. There are good times, there are bad times. And that's okay. It's not about those circumstances. It's about me. How do I navigate through all of that?
Right.
We have no control over the sunshine or the rain. We have no control. But like I have the choice how I respond.
Right.
Am I angry because it's raining? Well, sometimes I can frown, and it's not that I'm so enjoying the rain, but it's not going to have that power to take me down, to pull me down, to make me angry, or to, like just go through life like blah, it's raining and it's gray and it's cold and I don't like my life. And even if you have everything, it's
Right.
just too sad.
It is. It is incredible how certain moments can be very transformative if you allow it. And I think like some of the points you mentioned, I really felt like over time that ego ended up kind of being about other people. So you kind of end up being a marionette, a little bit of
Yes,
puppet. So if you're going to do
yes.
things to, let's say, prove people wrong all the time, or do things to, show off, it does leave you really at the mercy of other people's feelings and how they think about you. And I don't
Absolutely.
even think people think about you all that much. That's what these are things
No,
that kind of went through
absolutely.
went through my head over time.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you do things that
It's
actually make
so
you
true.
happy. It's really just I really do think it's just about you, and it's honest, so to say. Ego,
Honest.
it seems to be
Absolutely.
something that kind of it's kind of like giving the video game control to other people. That's what it kind of
Yes,
seems like,
yes,
so to say. So
absolutely.
you doing this,
Absolutely. If that drive or your motivator comes from outside you,
right,
then you're lost. The
right,
motivation that you have to have, that inner motivator. And I think when, as you said, it's really in alignment with your values.
yeah,
It's just like it is who you are. It's strange, but I cannot be different. It's just impossible for me.
right. But most people will live their lives being different from who
Yes,
they actually are, and
yes,
that would
yes,
probably include, some of your former friends and cohorts there.
yes, absolutely. And it's even not always so easy for my husband. He didn't go through the cancer, and he deals in a different way with things, but that's okay. We accept each other
Right.
for being. He's more like, you could say, like the mainstream, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I he didn't have that diagnosis of, like being told
Sure.
we will die in 6 months. um and everybody reacts in a different way, and sometimes even my kids would say, oh my god, for what, for once can you be a normal mom? And I'm like, how is that? I'm just not into small talk. I'm
Right.
not into the typical, mom things. I'm It's just not who I am. I don't fuss over small things.
Yeah.
And if my daughter would come like, oh, my friend told this, and I would immediately go into like, that's okay, Heloise. Like that's her thing. And
Sure.
she's like, Mom, you have to choose my side. Like you
Sure.
have to choose sides. And I'm like, I can see the perspective of both. And she's like,
Right.
this is not what I want to hear right now.
Right.
And that's okay. They are
Yeah.
fantastic kids, beautiful personalities. And in a way, I'm very conscious of being a role model, but it's their life. and I will not change, like to be some kind of real mom, like what
Sure.
real moms are supposed to
Yeah.
do. Well, I'm me, and I'm full of love, but I'm, like not in the way what society sees as a regular mom.
Wow. That's that's beautiful. And I have to say, I think the benefit of what you had to go through, and which is genuine, truthful life and death experience.
Yes.
There's many pathways that are going to be available to you in your mind towards
Hmm.
figuring out problems and achieving success, which I think a lot of
Hmm.
people are not going to have. So imagine it's like comparing, let's say, a boxer who's only ever trained in the gym, and that's
Yes.
it. And maybe
Yes.
that person might be a very good boxer, but has only
Yes.
ever trained in the gym,
Hmm.
versus the boxer who continuously spars and competes, in the
Yes.
ring with different fighters and different personalities. You learn so much more about yourself being that
Yes.
boxer that is sparring with a different boxer who comes from a different background and a different personality versus somebody who's just only training in the gym. That is what I would compare your experience to, because having the benefit of many ways going through that and surviving it, you have more experience and almost, I would say, a practical intelligence to draw from versus,
Yes.
somebody who's, let's say, only done one type of job and, for the most part, everything has gone, smoothly for them. That's great. I think human nature wants that instead. But,
Yes.
because it's easy,
The
it's
soul,
permanent.
it's yes, it's mostly what I have learned maybe is those parts of me which have sabotaged me, or that I had to let them go. I had no
Sure.
choice.
Yeah.
You
Same
had
here.
that survival, and like you said before with the hammer, I often compare it with the diamond, like being
Right.
under
Yeah.
pressure, and or every challenge being like sandpaper, and really, like polishing you. It's
Right.
polishing you, the sandpaper. Um, and I think in just having, I don't know why you could say in our education system, we so overprotect children from failure or hardship.
Right. It's
It's
very
not
true.
natural. It's not
It isn't.
natural. How do animals do it in nature? Like at a certain point, the mama bird, she just, like pushes the bird
Right.
out of the nest, and it has to fly.
Right.
It
It's true.
has to
Yeah.
learn to fly. And we're like, oh, so overprotective. If, like even with bullying, and of course we have to teach children respect, but we also have to learn our children to speak up with kindness,
Sure.
and see through bullying behavior. Bullying behavior is based on fear, is based on a sense of unworthiness.
Sure.
If we can train our children to even be like powerful enough to have compassion
Sure.
for the bullier, and isolate that behavior, instead of like blaming the bullier, and he's wrong and he's wrong, and oh, poor little kid, he
Sure.
has not to bully you. No,
Yeah.
you empower your kid. You treat the bullier in a humane way,
Yeah.
looking, like not the blaming. It has never
Right.
helped and anyone to point. It doesn't, blaming doesn't help. It will not heal that person who felt the need to bully, to fill some empty hole in himself. And
Sure.
it's not like I'm approving of that behavior. No, we have to be firm and powerful, but we have to teach our children that resilience and that strength. And once you are like beyond, like you're really resilient, you go to compassion for the rude one.
Sure.
That's when you're really powerful.
Right. Yeah, and you've raised many interesting points, in that statement. And it does seem like a lot of times school does not really train children to be resilient against, especially
No,
failure, because
no,
most of life
no.
is going to be how you deal with a lot of failure. So, and
And
maybe yes, please
and
go.
what is failure? It's a label on an experience.
Right. Right.
You
That's exactly what
label
it
it
is.
as a failure, but maybe in a long term, it's something that, like that was a catalyst for something
Right.
else. That's not a failure at all. That's just a label. So you have an expectation of something, which is already, like a complete illusion, your expectation.
Yeah.
You do not reach that expectation and you think, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
that's all illusory. Like that's all illusory.
Right.
That's not real. You just go through life and it's always about, who am I becoming in the process? Am I becoming
Very much so.
stronger? Am I becoming more resilient? Am I becoming more compassionate for myself and for others? Am I growing as a human being? And growing as a human being is becoming a leader. And people want to be with leaders, with, like authentic leaders. They want to
Sure.
work with them. They want to do business with them. They just want to be around them. They want to be married with them. So if you develop internally all those qualities, that's the key to success.
Well said. That's beautifully said, I have to say. And with especially when it comes to children, this is probably in many ways the best time and the most difficult time, to really kind of instill some of those lessons. So
Yes.
if this is in school, and if you have this kind of this dichotomy or this ecosystem where essentially I don't know. I don't know if it's like this hot potato type of blame game. Nothing eventually, resolves
No,
itself. Whether
no.
it's for the bully or whether it's for
Hmm.
the recipient of that as well. And I think one of the questions that people really have to, really be concerned about, especially when it comes to whether it's bullying here, but um, how what is the true answer of all this too? And in fact, I think failure needs to be reinterpreted as input, not per se
Yes,
failure. I feel
yes,
like most people are like
yes,
this.
yes.
Most people in life would rather have like a perfect win record, but they
Hmm.
only, let's say, stepped up to the plate or got into the ring 4 times in their life.
Hmm.
Versus, let's say, stepping up to the plate 20 times and maybe losing 10 of those.
Hmm.
There's way more to be gained from
Yes,
having a win record of, let's say, 10 losses and 10 wins versus, let's say, having a perfect win record of just 4, so
absolutely.
to say. But I think schools train kids to kind of, I guess you could say, play it safe as possible.
Yes, play it
Resist,
safe and
avoid
not be hurt,
failure
not
as
be.
much as possible.
Yes, yes.
You
And
know,
I think it sounds cliche, but it's never about the winning. It's always about the getting up when you lost. Like
right?
the getting up when you fell. There's so much power in that getting up, raising
Oh
yourself
yeah,
and saying, come on, let's try another. I had board meetings in the beginning with BMW where some of the people present, they were dedicated to make me feel like weak and to, like I was the
sure,
kind, nice person. And they were like, I'm gonna show, like
right,
I went to the bathroom, I cried, and then I said, okay, Barbara, this will make you stronger. This will make you stronger. And I went back up to the boardroom, like
yeah,
tears wiped, and like, I can do this. I can do this. This will not break me. This will not, no. And now the same people, they have deep respect for me. So things change. If you transform,
yeah.
the people around you adapt.
It's very true.
So it made for me possible, since I, like before as a business owner in my construction business, I was the boss. So you are not trained to have some punches, maybe from a few clients, but not from your staff.
Right.
Working with BMW, even if I was an external consultant, it was very different. I was
Right.
really attacked. Is it attacked? They just wanted to show who they were. I
Sure.
experienced it as an attack, but it made me so much more powerful. It taught me so many lessons that now, if somebody would start, like saying, oh, Barbara, that's bullshit, I have learned to deal with very direct communication. like
Yeah.
being surrounded, but almost all males. I know how it is to communicate. For a woman, sometimes it's different. We don't do that, but I have learned to do that, and I understand, but I have also learned very much to speak up with kindness and to say, no, look at the numbers. This is the result. Even if they would go louder and think that louder, you can like hide your
Right.
lie. You
Right.
cannot, not with me. Then I
Yeah.
would come up very kindly and saying, but look at that number. How do you explain that? And then they become all sweaty. And they
Right.
can no longer like the loudness does not
Right.
cover up, for sometimes loudness covers up incompetence. Well, I have learned to you know to deal with it in still, I try to do it in a very respectful way, but
Yeah.
I do not allow anyone to treat me disrespectfully.
Absolutely.
Never.
And you could almost compare that to, let's say, the schoolyard, bully example. So whether it's in the
Hmm.
boardroom with, let's say, one of
Yes.
the other board members shouting and kind of putting out all the bluster or maybe the
Yes.
intimidation, that could really just be a reflection of some sort of inadequacy. They don't really know
Hmm.
what they're doing, so maybe
No.
they have to kind of put on
No.
the show all the time so nobody would
Yes.
question them, so to say.
Uh-huh.
So that puts you in a position to be
Absolutely.
calmer and to be more
Hmm.
rational and to kind of
Yes.
see these vulnerabilities or mistakes.
Yes. Yes. And most of all, for me, most important thing is that in behaving the way, I'm very conscious about that, that is modeling a new way of leadership,
Right.
modeling that can be mature, calm, composed. And we see it so rarely. If you look at television and you see like
Oh yeah.
conversations of or discussions, it's two people like fighting
Yeah.
instead of having a mature conversation. It's not, let's say, just give an example. You, Adam, you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. That fact would divide us. No, we can have different perspectives, but we
Sure.
can be best friends and have different perspectives on economy, on healthcare. That's okay. But it's as if our society doesn't have that maturity.
Right.
Like we can be best friends and have different perspective of things because we're all humans. And that different perspective is just a little aspect of who we are. At the core, we're a human being with a loving heart. We
Yes.
love to love and we love to be loved. And that's the essence.
Right. So I can imagine, especially from your backgrounds, you've had the opportunity to gain and acquire this wisdom and really have the ability to really reflect and kind of flip a lot of these, think
Hmm.
things on their head. So you mentioned, let's say, the political debate, whether it's let's
Yes.
say let's say hypothetically, if
Yes.
I'm the Republican and you're Democrat, so to say, a lot of these things I do think are fear based. So I
Yes.
have to win. So I
Absolutely.
need to have
Yes.
this leg up. I need to have this edge over the situation. So
Yes.
imagine where you can go when you've known how to, let's say, deal and compartmentalize or transform that fear into
Absolutely.
something
To
else. So
fight,
like
to
what you
fight, you have to be two.
right. Yeah,
If in a
absolutely.
discussion, one would say, like, I understand why you would say that. I understand why, like cutting taxes is important for you. For me, getting more taxes is what I believe in, and that's the reason. But I can understand your point of view. That would be mature.
Oh
And then
yeah,
people who watch
absolutely.
could make the choice like, okay, for me, that side of things is more important, or for me, I prefer to have it this way. But at least we would not get upset in watching it. So I do not
Right.
watch all of this. I'm very conscious about what I fill my mind with. As
Same
you
here. Yeah.
probably know, I read like between 50 and 60 books a year.
I'm
And
the
like
same way.
that
I way prefer books by far.
yes, it's just like more it, first of all, you go to the essence of knowledge, the
Yes.
essence of it. It's not the blah blah blah, like
Right.
it's not like
It's
you're
not the
sitting
chatter.
the chatter. Yes,
Yes.
you really go to the essence. You go to people who really reflected about things, who have a deeper perspective, um instead of having just like noise.
It's a very
I
good point.
refuse
Yeah. Yeah,
to
if
fill
you
my
write a
mind
book,
with
you
noise.
have to really kind of, you really have to analyze it in your
Yes,
head many times
yes,
before it actually comes out on the pen. You look at the news,
absolutely.
whether it's in the US or
Yes,
elsewhere, I just feel like
everywhere.
people are, it is chatter. I don't feel
Yes,
like I'm
it
taking a
is.
lot of value. It's like junk
No,
food. It's like,
junk.
let's say, eating a
Absolutely.
bag of potato chips when you watch the news. It's like, okay, I'm
Even
putting
if you
something in
would,
my mouth, but
yes,
it's not
even
filling me up.
no, and even if you close your eyes and you feel like, "Wah, wah, wah, wah," like the
Right.
voices, you're like getting woo. I'm like immediately I like like TV is off.
Right.
I prefer we are like we are all cells like vibrating together. That's
Absolutely.
what a human. Yeah? So if you take all this low vibes, these negative vibes,
Yeah,
that's that that has an enormous effect on you.
it does.
So if you
Absolutely.
watch drama the entire night, if you are with a partner and you're still in that, you could say, immature phase of fighting every night, of
Sure.
like shouting at the kids, watching the drama on TV, yelling at on the phone, that's like you spend your life in some kind of state
Sure.
that is, if you would watch it from the outside, you would say, oh my god, what am I doing to it's just self-abuse.
Right.
It's not taking care of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably like slowly drinking poison, especially
Yes,
if you have, let's say, the typical news stations on in the background, and plus, let's say, the other
yes,
interactions in your life
yes,
are
yes,
also as chaotic as
yes,
well.
yes,
All these things kind of feed one another. So I think
absolutely.
if you're more upset and you're more anxious, you're probably going to want to watch the
Yes,
very very typical news stations that are just going to make you
yes,
panic all the time, and then in
yes,
turn,
yes,
that person will just go back to fighting either the rest
yes,
of their family or
yes.
their friends and
Hmm.
coworkers. And I don't
Yes,
know if
and
it's by
just fill
design or
their
not.
lives with gossip and
Right.
like it's just to make them feel better. It's just a very different way of living,
Right.
which is a lot more conscious and a lot more friendly for yourself.
Wow. Yeah. I completely I completely agree. And I think given how short of a time that we all have, I think we
Yes.
all have to keep in mind, we don't have as much time as we think. And,
No.
and that's how I like, and I mean this in a positive way, by the way.
No, it's
We don't have
good.
as much time as we think. So, whether it's, especially for myself, I do make it a point not to waste time on things. So like you said, the news, I completely avoid
No, I
watching
know.
any of that. And especially like you
Hmm.
said, if I was to close my eyes and really just try to listen, more often than not, I would say almost always, there's nothing of value I could take. So I can
No,
listen to 10
no.
minutes of this. I
Hmm.
may have 2 seconds of, okay,
Hmm.
maybe I can do something with this. And
Yes.
maybe in that way, that's also a reflection of a lot of relationships
Yes.
nowadays too. Whether you see the way reporters or politicians go about it in the news, you kind of also see that a lot with people nowadays. It's
Hmm.
just chatter,
Hmm.
and nobody's really
Yes.
listening. It's just noise, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can see, I was just thinking about my son who is 19. And between his, you could say, between 14 and 18, he did a lot of gaming, but really,
Sure.
like, and he would get, like in the living room, oh, like we just felt
Yeah.
he was so,
He was
and
so
I
excited.
never excited, but,
Yeah.
like more, there was some kind of aggression in it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we never told him that he could not do it. I'm not that kind of mom. I think
Right.
in the experience they learn. Of course, it's not like I'm, if he would go on drugs, or I don't know what, if I would pull him back. But with the gaming, I had, like, he had to explore it himself.
Right.
Now he's 19. Like in the last 6 months, he has not been gaming,
Yeah.
but he's a lot more quiet. But if I would have told him at 14 or 15, you can never game because
Right.
it's not good for you, it would have the reverse effect. Now he experienced it and he's like, been there, done that, the gaming.
Right.
I'm over it, mom. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And
And,
it's just, you witness it, and it's not always so easy to it. Sometimes as a mom, you just say like, Jean-Baptiste, I can see how you're upset about how you're different, and more like, you're just different. And he was, oh no, that's not true. And I can see it now. I'm like, just, I'm like relieved, like, oh, he's over that.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And it's not, I'm not against gaming and say, I just could see the difference in his behavior, that he's like
Right.
a lot calmer now than when he would come from his room and he
Yeah.
just had been gaming. And like, it's what we fill ourselves with, we become it eventually.
It's very true, and I think it's a lot more significant than a lot of people understand. Like for instance,
Yes.
you talk about news, and I'll tell you this: in the United States, I think most people either watch CNN, Fox News, or
Hmm.
MSNBC, some
Hmm.
variation of those. And people that I know who literally watch the news all the
Hmm.
time, you don't want to be around them, seriously, because that's
No,
all they
no.
want to talk about, and
Yes.
they're always upset, and it's
Upset.
regardless of
Yes.
whether
And I'm like,
whatever
okay.
their politics are, it's
I
everything is an emergency all the time. So it's
I
like
know.
I'm like relax,
When I
like
come at BMW, sometimes I meet those people who are always upset. And
yeah,
then I would say, okay, is your opinion about the situation going to change anything in world politics?
right.
I don't think so. I don't think so. If you want to change something, like, do it, become a
Take the journey
politician.
yourself if you
Yes,
want to change
take your
something.
journey yourself. If
Like
you're upset because that CEO has, just take your journey instead of being upset. Just become an activist for something then.
yeah, do
But
something to
do,
practically
yes, yes,
get your hands dirty, so to say.
yes, get your hands dirty. But your opinion will not change politics.
No.
It will not. And it's waste of time.
And also, I think people really need to appreciate this as well. But if you're, back to the example, if you're one of these people who's watching like these type of news stations all the time, you're also allowing other people to tell you how to think, so to
Yes.
say. So if this is
Oh,
something
yes.
that's giving you anxiety, if this is something that's creating reactions within you, you're also allowing kind of, you could say, talking heads, so to say,
You're
really.
getting brainwashed.
Right. You're
Brainwashed.
really
You're getting
you're really
brainwashed.
allowing them to frame your
I
world,
think
so to say.
I have always read books from very different cultures,
Yeah.
different eras,
Yeah.
Eastern,
Same here.
Western, like Roman culture, medieval, like recent, because it gives you that perspective.
Oh,
And
yeah.
most of all, what I have had like this, since childhood, I'm very inquisitive, like I want to
Yeah.
know. And I love to question, like, is that really so? Is that because that
Right.
person tells it? Is that so? And
Yeah.
then looking like at every part of it and always questioning. And I have come to understand that, especially in history, politics, like there's never once, there's like a kaleidoscope. You can look at things from
Oh, yeah.
so many perspectives that there's nobody's right.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's right. There are some, like essences in who we are that I strongly believe. We are love, like for me, we're love and vibration.
Yeah.
Love and vibration. Not so easy for many people to grasp what it really means being love. You're an expression.
Yeah.
But our thinking mind always disturbs, like
Yeah.
we have been given a thinking mind, and instead of just flourishing in it, we're like thinking, is that really so? And like we made it a lot more complicated
Right.
than it really is.
Yeah.
And it's having that balance between the mind and the heart, but mostly, like many people are stuck here and
Right.
make it very complicated,
Excuse me.
while many times it's not.
Yeah. And maybe just to add, something to that as well. One of the best things to do is to reserve judgment. And I think that's a lot harder than a lot of people can do. And by the way, this is even something I have to practice. So whether it's
Me
something on the
too.
news, whether
Yeah.
it's, dealing with family, whether it's dealing with
Hmm.
coworkers, just contemplate the aspect, what you're feeling. You might
Hmm.
be wrong about this right now.
Yes.
You might very well be wrong about this right now. So, but you know
Yes,
what?
I love
And
that. I love
so
that.
I'll say this. So just for the sake of curiosity, just do the opposite thing to getting upset
Yes,
and just see what happens.
yes,
And listen, even for myself, like I've been proven wrong. Like sometimes things will irritate me or make me upset. I'm like, okay,
hmm
let's just see this through. Let's just see what's really going on. Reserve judgment. Just keep your eyes
yes,
open. And
yes.
it's amazing, I think, ultimately how much easier you can kind of make things,
Oh, yes,
from that as well. Because I think the human instinct is like, I need an answer, and I need an answer
yes.
now. I'm like,
Well,
well,
I think many of it is taught.
sure,
Like from toddler on, we teach
right,
children to label, to judge. What color
right,
do you prefer? Do you like
right.
Barbie? Do you like the
You need an
car?
answer at the
And
moment, right
yes,
now. Like,
yes,
what's your favorite
you
color?
learn,
And
you learn kids to label and to judge. And
yeah,
that's the entire, like the entire educational system is like that.
right,
Label, judge. And doesn't have to be that way. If we would
right.
maybe look at Tibetan culture, how kids are raised there, like playing in nature,
Oh
they're
yeah,
kind, they're just natural, they don't have to get those high grades, like just giving an example. I don't even know if it's, like just giving an example. But we are like, like there are in a very artificial setting from very young
right,
on. They have to sit there, they have to, and it's all about labeling and judging, and I like this, and what do you like, and what do you don't like, what don't you
right,
like. It's not, like, and oh, that's a strange person, oh, look out for this, oh, watch out, this man has a beard, oh, they can, like it's
right,
filling our minds with fear and judgment instead
right.
of just approaching things from a very different way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. On an ending note, I wanted to
Yes.
ask you for like aspiring entrepreneurs out there who are going about their journey now,
Hmm.
and especially with the experience and journey you've taken, what advice would you give people? Because I would imagine, with the, I guess you could say, with the circumstances that you had and the
Hmm.
way you were able to transform from that, it's beyond impressive and inspirational. But somebody who might be in that spot may be listening to that, and you
Yes.
might, let's say, your voice in that moment might be the voice that will kind of give them that little push to kind of keep
Yes.
going, so to say.
First of all, what I have learned in every journey, especially in the entrepreneurial journey, is patience.
Yes.
Patience. And nothing is permanent. So if you're in a deep hole right now, if it's all black, it's not permanent. But if you're on top of the mountain and celebrating a huge success, no, that's not permanent either.
Right.
Nor the failure, nor the success is permanent. So enjoy every bit of it.
Yeah, I agree. Well said. And there's something to be gained by every part of it too, I have to say.
Yes, yes.
Barbara, Barbara, I have to say, it was an absolute pleasure having you on today,
For me too.
sharing your story and, bestowing a lot of this wisdom, because a lot of times I think maybe we get ourselves into this bubble, like we know everything that we need to know at this very moment. And in fact,
Yes.
that's more often than not the case. And I think
Hmm.
especially given your trajectory, having an
Hmm.
impressive business, then going through the cancer, then going through essentially the betrayal from your former business
Uh-huh.
partners, and then transforming and essentially having this incredible trajectory afterwards. To most people, that's going to sound impossible, but
It's
because
not.
you've done it and you've achieved it, that's what makes you different. And that's what's going to make
Yeah,
you.
but
See,
I'm
people are going to
just
listen to you, not like, let's say, your friends who've, let's say, played it safe, or
so.
former
But
friends, rather, who played it safe and everything just kind of went okay. That doesn't do anything for people,
but
really.
for everybody watching, just know that you can do it too. I was like, until 7 or 8 years ago, an unknown woman in Belgium. Nobody knew me. Like 7 years later, I'm inspiring hundreds of thousands of people every week, and
Oh,
I could
right.
never. So if I can do that, and I'm not even young and flashy, and I don't have, um, you could say the cleavage or the whatever. I'm just being me. I'm just passionate about the message that I'm bringing, and I
Right.
merely feel like an instrument for more kindness. It's not about Barbara the person.
Right.
It's about me being able to bring it, about me being, like you listening. I'm even grateful for this opportunity that you gave to me. I'm
Oh, by
li-
the way,
I'm,
I'm
I'm
grateful too
grateful.
that you came on here. I mean, I've seen your name out there for a long time, so trust me, I'm very, very happy and
No,
grateful
no, it's
too.
it's just, like if you're, like you have that seed planted in your heart, it was planted there for a reason. So if you have dismissed that seed for a long time, or you have started to, like nurture it, that seed, don't give it
Right.
up. Like nurturing a plant, we know all, if we look in nature, something to grow, the moment of the root taking where nothing is seen, like it's same in business. You have all this effort underground,
Right.
and you think, oh, there's no money coming in, there's nobody saying yes, like no, just take the time to have that foundation, those roots growing.
Right. And you know what? You
We
mentioned.
could go on forever.
I know, yeah, but I think with what you've done, 'cause you made the example of let's say, being on a bathing suit on a beach, being all flashy and everything like that. But I think a lot of it has to do with what crowd you want to attract too. So the fact of the matter is, because you are who you are, doing this at this time and reaching this point, you're going to attract the audience that you desire, but also the
Mhm.
audience that's most appropriate for what your ultimate mission
Absolutely.
is. And I think that is
Yes.
just as important as many of these other factors. So again, Barbara,
Yes.
thank you so much for coming on today. I'm
Thank
very
you,
much looking forward
Adam.
to seeing more of your content and more
Thank
of
you.
these life lessons, because these are fundamentals, and
Thank you.
fundamentals are really what make things, projects, and other ventures ultimately successful. And these fundamentals are really going to be your core values as you go about
I'm in the
doing.
process of writing a book,
All right.
and it's called The
When,
Path of Powerful Kindness.
let me write that
But
down.
like it's I won't speak out too loud because what you say becomes reality, but it's quite a challenge to find the time to be fully, like in alignment, and to
Yes.
continue with, you know running business, children, a
Oh yeah.
lot going on, doing a lot on social media. So I told my husband I really need to go on a retreat, a week somewhere in a monastery,
Right.
to really isolate myself to finish. I'm like 60%, but I really will have to isolate myself to finish it. Otherwise, I would just be laying there in my drawer
Ugh,
and not getting finished. Um, but
I
I'm
can
very
I can
excited.
understand that. And
I'm very
whenever you do finish it, please let me know. If you want to
Yes,
have some
I
sort
will.
of pre-launch or launch episode
Yes, yes,
on this
we will.
platform, I'd be more than happy to. And we can go through the
Okay.
nuances and some of the
Yes.
subject matter of the book.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Barbara, I hope you have an awesome week. And today, it was an absolute pleasure having you on and talk about your journey and talk about all these great things that you have and all
Okay.
these great
Thank
things you've
you.
done and things that are coming up.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye,
you.
Adam.